Welcome everybody to Week in Review, a series that we put out each week where we tell you all the reviews we did the past week, what we think about them now. Well, I guess we think the same thing about them we think then. Anyway, I'm mixing things up. We'll give you some short descriptions of them. Then if you want to see the whole review, click on a link in the description below. Let's go.
Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia. Here's what I reviewed last week. So I reviewed, along with Tom, a collection of 3 Korean games. And these are all based on sort of abstract ideas. They're from someone who is an extremely good player of Go, a famed player of Go. And these 3 are abstract games he designed. So here we go, from the top. King's Crown, I really disliked. I gave this a 4 out of 10. It tries to combine bingo with drafting. It has this idea of you spending the first half of the game sort of taking numbers, and it has a big memory element, and then putting out your numbers that you drafted inside of your plastic crowns, lovely components, trying to get basically bingo, 5 in a row. The game is very, very forgettable, and again has a weird mix of strategy, but memory and lots of luck, so it did not work for me. The second one, Great Kingdom, gets a 5 out of 10 from me. This one is the closest to Go itself. It sort of feels like a variant of Go. And in it, you are going to be putting out these castles, trying to cut off areas and control them, trying to surround your opponent, and if you do that, you capture and win. So again, in many ways, it's sort of like the classic game of Go, but I found it to be not Go, so it's not that thinky and not something that I'm necessarily going to invest time in or would want to. And while attractive, a game that often I just, as we played, we found ourselves just sort of going, oh, I messed up. I'm about to lose there. So it was that game. The strategy felt too close to Go, but it's not that. So kind of what's the point of this game? And then lastly, my favorite of the 3 is called 9 Nights. This one I gave a 7 to out of 10. And this one's interesting. It's sort of like Stratego. You have hidden numbers. You're going to be moving your knights around the board, challenging each other, trying to capture all of your opponent's knights so that they have none on the board, or get one of yours all the way across to the corresponding space. Really neat, interesting stuff. There's more deduction than in normal Stratego. As you eliminate some of your opponent's knights and see their numbers, you can start to deduce what else they might have out there. So very interesting and different in a way. It correctly utilizes the sort of classic components of a game, in this case Stratego, and implements some new things that really do help. Besides those 3 games, I was in the review for Benevolent, which I gave a 6 out of 10 to. Benevolent here is a fairly forgettable little filler. It's very pretty. I think visually it has some issues, but it plays quickly and moves along at a nice clip. I just did not find it to really make an impression on me. I reviewed Dracula vs. Van Helsing, which I gave a 7.5 to. This is a 2-player head-to-head game. Some really interesting stuff going on in this one, and one that is a very subtle game, in which Dracula, the Dracula player, is trying to turn vampires in these districts, trying to make vampires, and the other player, Van Helsing, is trying to reduce Dracula's health pool. If they manage to do that, they win, and if Dracula creates 4 vampires in the same district or runs out the clock, they win. Very nice, asymmetric, some neat concepts, some cool card play, or sort of, it's these tiles really, but you're drawing these and then arranging them in front of you to influence different districts. I like this one. I could certainly even see it going up in my estimation, especially if you're playing with the same player over and over. So really nice. And then lastly, I reviewed Freelancers, which I give a 9 out of 10 to. This is an incredible, a fantastic, a hilarious story game. It is fully voiced. The voice work in this is spectacular. The story is very tongue-in-cheek and very silly, but the gameplay is, while not something I want to play all the time because mechanically it really is barely there, as far as involvement goes, one of the best. I really, really enjoyed being taken along on this ride, this sort of choose-your-own-adventure book brought to life sort of world, with a silly, funny, post-apocalyptic theme on top of it. So there you go. That's Freelancers, 9 out of 10. And that's it for me, folks. I'll see you on the next one.
Week in review here, Roy here, and this week I took a look at Freelancers. This I gave a 9.5. This is an outstanding game. I love the voice acting, I love the storytelling, I love the ease of getting into the game. I just love the way this game comes together. I like app-driven games in general, but I just really enjoy how everything happens in this game, and this is a game that I can see getting to the table a bunch, and I'm really excited. I'm even going to be playing this game this weekend, so I'm stoked about that. And I also took a look at the new expansion, a new big box expansion for Marvel Champions. This is Next Evolution. This adds Domino and Cable to the game. Domino has a whole bunch of different luck things with priming the top of the deck and flipping over cards. Then Cable has all these different side schemes that he's putting into play that help benefit the whole team when you actually complete them. Lots of fun stuff there, and I love the storyline of this. It's awesome to see Juggernaut and Mr. Sinister and Strife in this, and they all play very different. Me and Joe review this, definitely enjoy this, 9.5. I love Marvel Champions, still love what they're doing with this game, and it's always a blast for me to play. I binged this in like 2 days because I was so excited about playing through everything. Anyway, that's what I took a look at this week.
My week in review. I don't know. Looked at some stuff, played some stuff, gave some numbers. I don't know. Just stuff. That's all we do here, just do stuff. I don't even have my phone up to the notes. Here they are. Ready.
Hey, it's Chris time. This time I took a look at 3 different reviews, the first of which was Point City. This one I gave a 7. I think Point City is a nice development on Point Salad, but it has a little bit more going on to it, and sometimes to the point where it feels a little bit fiddly trying to remember how to replace the cards and everything. But I like what's going on with it. Didn't love it, but I mean, still, one that I could see pulling out with my family. They'll probably pull out Point Salad with them a little bit more. So that's why it sits at a 7. Next up, Emerge. This is from Pandasaurus. I gave an 8. I think Emerge has a fun little dice rolling mitigation kind of a game. And I enjoy seeing the islands come to life and getting the different little animal meeples and stuff on there. I think it has a nice ramp up over the 8 rounds of the game. Doesn't outstay its welcome. And it's very fun, beautiful, neat little punchy game. So Emerge gets an 8. And then Sky Team, cooperative 2-player game, gets an 8.5 from me. I like this one tremendously. This is a game that feels like it fits right in with Scorpion Mask's other games, things like Turing Machine, that are very puzzly, very thinky, but very fun to play. I like this limited communication. It reminds me of playing games like The Crew, and it feels thematic, despite how it's just kind of an abstract game. But I love the elements where it feels thematic, and it really does it well. So, I did a few other videos, though, also this week. A pile of Phil Walker Harding games, when I looked at about half of his catalog. I will do more in the future. Did a rapid-fire roundup where I just took a look at different expansions, and so it's an Oops, All Expansions edition. And then the last thing we did was an Amun-Re Ketchupalooza. There's no official score for that one. I'd give it at least an 8.5. I really like that one. So make sure to go check out the stuff from this last week. Till then, let's keep it moving.
Hey everybody, I'm Joey Evans, and here is my weekend roundup of the games I reviewed this week. Hard for me to say there. All right, so first off, we did Emerge. Emerge is from Pandasaurus Games. It's where you're pretty much making islands and animals and stuff. Pretty fun game. Very kind of abstract, but I like the artwork. I did give it a 7.5. The other one was Benevolent. Benevolent's kind of a filler style game, very light, but I love the chips in it. I think although it's simple, easy to learn, you learn in a couple of seconds, I think it has some pretty cool, meaningful decisions. I like that one a lot, and I gave it an 8. And I also reviewed the next evolution of the Marvel Champions. So I actually enjoyed this a lot. I gave it an 8. It has Domino and Cable, and hidden in Cable's deck is Deadpool. That right there is fantastic for me. Enjoyed this a lot. Then also, I played a game called Dracula versus Van Helsing. And the artwork is done by the guy that did Bloody End, which immediately brought me in. I enjoyed this a lot. Again, as a filler game, I gave this a 7, and I enjoyed it. I think that actually might climb. I enjoyed it a lot. But anyway, those are the 4 games that I reviewed this week.
Hi, I'm Wendy Yee, and today I have 3 reviews that I'm going to be talking about. The first one is Sky Team. This one I gave an 8.5. I really, really enjoy the silent nature of the cooperativeness of this. So it's a 2-player only game. You're trying to land a plane, and everyone has their jobs and their responsibilities that they just need to do. And so you're working together and you're communicating in little ways by putting down these dice and making choices. And depending on the choices you make and what numbers you put there, other people have to react. So just very much enjoy this game. Tons of fun. The next one is Point City, which I also gave an 8.5. Also very much enjoyed it. This is a spiritual successor to the Point Salad card game. So it's also a card game. But in this, you're picking up 2 adjacent cards in this 4x4 grid. And so as you're picking them up, you can choose to take a resource and a building, but you have to be able to have the resources to pay for that building. And so sometimes the resource that you pick up adjacent to it is just enough to be able to pay for it. And then you have resources that you're spending, as well as those buildings become permanent resources. And so you kind of build an engine like Splendor with building those cards. But I just really enjoy that adjacentness. And then there's, of course, these endgame scoring tiles that you can collect. So there's certain buildings that you can build that will then allow you to get an endgame scoring tile. And I very much enjoy that. So it's clean, it's simple, it's short, it's sweet. I really like it at 2 players. Like, it's definitely best at 2 players. So Point City, 8.5. The last one is Freelancers. This one I gave a 9. What a great story. So if you've played some of the other Crossroads games, there's some similarities to that. But I really, really appreciate that the story is more forefront, I feel like, in this one than a lot of the other ones. And so mechanisms is second, but for me, because the story's forefront, it had to be very good story, and it had to be well done and well read, well acted. And I feel like it hit every mark that it needed to. So that's why I got a 9, because very, very good, fun story, goofy, silly, just ridiculous, but well acted, well produced, well made, well written, all the above. So Freelancers, I gave a 9. All right, so that's what I've got for this week. Let's see who's next.
All right, this week in my rapid fire roundup, I looked at a couple different games. I took a look at Cosmoctopus, Archaea Society, Forest of Radgost, and Lorcana. So be sure to check out that rapid fire roundup for my thoughts on those specifically. I also took a look in a group review at Benevolent. I came in at a 6.5 on this game. I found it to be a very interesting puzzle. I like this racing style game where it's an instant win for somebody. I felt, unfortunately, that the game suffered from really poor design choices, such as the colors. 2 of the colors are completely like, you can't tell the difference on the board, so it effectively makes it a 3-player game. I also think the board was more busy than it needed to be, which just kind of confused how much it costs to go certain places. If the footprints are printed, they're not very legible, as well as you can't really tell what the different actions are because the board is just, the saturation is all very similar and very busy. So unfortunately, it struggled with, it suffered from that, even though I did enjoy the gameplay. So 6.5 for me for Benevolent. On the other side, I took a look at Sky Team, gave this one an 8.5. This caught me off guard. For a 2-player limited communication game, it absolutely nailed it. I still don't know why the pilot and co-pilot can't talk to each other in the cockpit, but I found that didn't bother me. And usually I am the big themer, and that does bother me. I thought that as opposed to Benevolent, the graphic design in this was fantastic. It gave you everything that you needed on the board, but delivered that information in a very simplistic, easy to understand way. From the first round of this game, you understand what's going on. So you're not having to ask questions to the other player and inadvertently give away information. Kind of gave me the Crew vibes a little bit, but in a dice placement way. Really enjoyed Sky Team, and definitely look forward to getting more plays of that and kind of exploring all the different modules that it has to offer as well. So Sky Team, 8.5. And that's going to do it for me this week. Let's keep moving.
Hey everybody, this is Mike DeLisio, and this week I reviewed one game. I reviewed Race to the Raft, which is a follow-up to the game The Isle of Cats from the same designer, Frank West. In Race to the Raft, you are trying to save cats from an island that is being engulfed in flame. It's a cooperative game that uses limited communication. Overall, I thought the game was very, very good. I gave it an 8 out of 10, primarily because it is a pure puzzle game that relies on a bit of logic and a bit of spatial reasoning, and I tend to like those types of games. It also has a limited communication component, which doesn't always work for me, so check out the full review if you want to see the positives and the negatives that I had for the game in more detail. All right, well, that's going to do it for me this week. Let's keep it moving.
All right, at the beginning of the week, we took a look at Amun-Re, which, if you're interested, we played that, did a Catch-a-Pooza. I still think it's a great game, 8.5. I also took a look at Point City, the sequel to Point Salad, and it's a fine game. It just pales a little bit for me besides Point Salad because Point Salad's so fast. Point City's very similar but slows it down a little bit. More gamery. I still enjoy it, just not as much. 7 out of 10. Then Benevolent. There's a few production issues, which would drop this from a much higher score, but I really like this filler. Fast, quick, easy, nice poker chips. 8 out of 10. Z and I took a look at 3 different games from Korea, all designed by a Go master, and gave them 3 different rankings. You can see that video. One was a 4 for me, one was a 6, one was a 7. Then I also did 7 quick reviews that ranged, I believe the highest was an 8, but the lowest was a 1. Go check out that video if you want to see that. And speaking of that, as a side note, all these quick review things that we do are on a separate channel, Dice Tower Encore, where if you want to see short reviews from the Dice Tower staff, consistently upload it, and they're separate each one. Check that out. It's an easy, you're not going to get tons of videos there, but you will have at least one every day. And then finally, the last thing for the week that I reviewed was Freelancers. Freelancers is an amazing storytelling, hilarious, well-written, just terrific game all around. Really enjoy this one, a 9 out of 10. And then there's other things that went up this week, a top 10 list, our live shows, many different things, so check them all out. But until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching A Week in Review on the Dice Tower.